Hey guy, close your eyes and step back over 700 years to a time before electricity, before antibiotics, before coffee was even common in Europe. Imagine the year 1324 in a quiet village nestled somewhere in the rolling green hills of medieval England. Smoke rises slowly from thatched rooftops. Chickens cluck lazily near a muddy path, and the soft creak of wooden carts blends with distant church bells. Tonight, let the world of the medieval peasant lull you into peaceful rest. Let go of your modern worries and drift into a time when survival depended on the harvest, on the goodwill of your Lord, and on your aching hand. You'll follow the life of an ordinary person, someone like you, born into toil and tradition. You'll tend sheep in icy winds, barter in the village market, dodge disease and taxes, and learn the rhythms of feast and famine. Every season brings new burdens and a few moments of joy too. So tonight we ask, would you survive being a medieval peasant for one full year? Now, take a deep breath. Let your journey begin. Hey, guy, close your eyes and step back over 700 years to a time before electricity, before antibiotics, before coffee was even common in Europe. Imagine the year 1324 in a quiet village nestled somewhere in the rolling green hills of medieval. Smoke rises slowly from thatched rooftops. Chickens cluck lazily near a muddy path, and the soft creak of wooden carts blends with distant church bells. Tonight, let the world of the medieval peasant lull you into peaceful rest. Let go of your modern worries and drift into a time when survival depended on the harvest, on the goodwill of your Lord, and on your aching hands. You'll follow the life of an ordinary person, someone like you, born into toil and tradition. You'll tend sheep in icy winds, barter in the village market, dodge disease and taxes, and learn the rhythms of feast and famine. Every season brings new burdens and a few moments of joy, too. So tonight we ask, would you survive being a medieval peasant for one full year? Now, take a deep breath. Let your journey begin. The year begins not with joy, but with mud. Sticky, cold, miserable mud. After months of frost and snow, the spring thaw has arrived in your little village, and though the days are growing longer and the birds have begun to chirp again, the land is not yet ready to welcome you kindly. You awake in the dark. There is no clock, just the chill in the air and the muted sound of roosters calling through the fog. You lie on a damp straw mattress beside your younger siblings, all curled like worms against the cold. A simple wool blanket covers you all. The fire died in the night, and it will be your job to rekindle it. You rise slowly, careful not to disturb the ash in the hearth. Your feet touch the packed earth floor. It's wet and cold against your soles. The scent of smoke and mildew clings to the low ceiling. You cough quietly into your sleeve. Outside, the world is gray and dripping. The thatched roofs are slick with meltwater. Pigs root in the muck beside the path. Chickens strut cautiously across ice-cold puddles. Everything squelches. Nothing is dry. You join your father in the field, dragging the wooden plow behind the oxen. The handles are rough and splintery. Your palms blister quickly. The soil is heavy, too heavy. It clings to the blade and your boots light. You stop often to clear the mess with your hands. You have not eaten much. A little bread from stale rye, a few beans preserved in ash and salt. The hunger left by winter still gnaws quietly in your belly. Your body aches with effort. There is a whispered hope in the air, though none dare speak it aloud. If this spring is kind, the harvest will feed the village. But if the rains come late, or too hard, or not at all, you may go to bed next winter with nothing but boiled bark. As you sow, the old women of the village murmur blessings under their breath. They whisper to the saints, to the Virgin, to the earth itself. Handful of seeds is tossed not into the furrow, but to the wind, an offering for the unseen. Later in the day, your hands raw and your eyes stinging from smoke, you rest for a moment against the fence. A neighbor passes, nods. His son fell ill last week. Some fever that took root after the thaw began. The midwife says it's the damp. You wonder if your cough means anything. You do not ask. Asking gives it power. As dusk approaches, the bells from the chapel ring across the wet hills, a call to prayer, or perhaps simply to pause. The work never ends. Back inside your small home, you share a bowl of watery pottage with your family. Turnip, leeks, the last of the dried herbs from last summer. It's thin, but it's warm. Your father says little. He sharpens a wooden tool near the hearth. Your mother rubs a salve into your baby sister's cracked skin. You listen to the fire pop softly and the wind tugging at the walls. Outside, frogs croak in the ditches. Inside, someone begins to hum a slow melody. A lullaby, perhaps, or just something old to pass the time. You do not know the words, but the sound is enough. To You crawl beneath the blanket again, limbs aching. You can smell the soil still under your fingernails. Your stomach growls, but your eyes grow heavy. Tomorrow, you will plant again, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day. But for now, sleep takes you. You are not free, not truly. You live on this land, but you do not own it. You work these fields, but they are not yours. You belong to the manor, to the estate, and above all, to your Lord. It begins with a bell, not the church bell this time, but a smaller, sharper one, carried by the bailiff on horseback as he rides up the village path. You hear it and stop what you're doing. Everyone does. It's time for corvée, the compulsory labor owed to the manor. This week, the work is road mending. Spring rains have torn up the earthen lanes. The Lord's carts cannot pass. So you are called to carry stones, fill holes with gravel and dirt, and shape the track with spades that have no handles. Your back aches already, and the sun hasn't yet reached its peak. The work is tedious. The bailiff watches closely. His eyes narrow beneath a felted hood. His boots are clean. Yours are caked in mud and split at the toe. A young boy beside you lifts stones too heavy for his arms. He stumbles, and the bailiff barks. No sympathy, no help, only duty. You are allowed to tend your own land only after you serve the manor's needs. Your own planting is delayed. You worry the seed won't take. But if you complain aloud, you risk punishment. Some men have been fined for speaking against the steward. Others have been put in the stocks. Public shame in the village square. You've seen them before, faces burned red by sun and laughter. Rotten vegetables hurled by children. You've seen them before, faces burned red by sun and laughter. Rotten vegetables hurled by children. The Lord himself, you've seen him only twice. Once from afar, riding through the village on a white horse, flanked by men with swords. The second time, during a feast day, when he blessed the crowd and didn't look any of you in the eye. He lives in a stone manor house up the hill. Tall windows, warm fires, roast meat, fine cloth. You wonder if he knows the weight of a plow or the ache of knees that kneel in the muck. There are officials between you and him. The reeve, chosen from among the villagers, manages daily tasks. He remembers who owes what. He tracks grain, debts, broken tools. Some say he is fair. Others say he's turned cruel with power. At midday, you receive a crust of bread and a bowl of ale for your labor. You sit by the roadside, your hands black with earth and blood from small cuts, your muscles burning. You chew slowly, staring at the dirt you've been moving since morning. Your thoughts drift. What if the Lord forgave your dues this season? What if the king passed a law to free the villains? What if the village rose up, refused to work, and seized the grain stores? But these are not thoughts for speaking aloud. You bury them. By sundown, the road is mostly passable. The bailiff leaves without thanks. Your back screams with each step home. Your field is untouched. You will have to plant by moonlight. Your neighbor grumbles about the injustice, but his wife hushes him quickly. Words travel, she warns, eyes flicking toward the shadows. You arrive home just as the stars begin to blink in the sky. There is no hot food left, only a crust and a lukewarm bowl of onion broth. You eat in silence. Later, you lie on the straw again, staring at the beams above you. You think of the manor, the taxes, the road work, the unpaid hours. Your body may belong to the land, but your thoughts, not yet. Sleep comes slowly tonight. Your hands still clench the ghost of a shovel. Your shoulders twitch with pain. But outside, a soft rain begins to fall. And for a little while, all is still. And for a little while, all is still. You are not free. Not truly. You live on this land, but you do not own it. You work these fields, but they are not yours. You belong to the manor, to the estate, and above all, to your Lord. It begins with a bell, not the church bell this time, but a smaller, sharper one, carried by the bailiff on horseback as he rides up the village path. You hear it and stop what you're doing. Everyone does. It's time for corvée, the compulsory labor owed to the manor. This week, the work is road mending. Spring rains have torn up the earthen lanes. The Lord's carts cannot. So you are called to carry stones, fill holes with gravel and dirt, and shape the track with spades that have no handles. Your back aches already, and the sun hasn't yet reached its peak. The work is tedious. The bailiff watches closely. His eyes narrow beneath a felted hood. His boots are clean. Yours are caked in mud and split at the toe. A young boy beside you lifts stones too heavy for his arms. He stumbles, and the bailiff barks. No sympathy, no help, only duty. You are allowed to tend your own land only after you serve the manor's needs. Your own planting is delayed. You worry the seed won't take. But if you complain aloud, you risk punishment. Some men have been fined for speaking against the steward. Others have been put in the stocks, public shame in the village square. You've seen them before, faces burned red by sun and laughter, rotten vegetables hurled by children. The Lord himself, you've seen him only twice. Once from afar, riding through the village on a white horse, flanked by men with swords. The second time, during a feast day, when he blessed the crowd and didn't look any of you in the eye. He lives in a stone manor house up the hill, tall windows, warm fires, roast meat, fine cloth. You wonder if he knows the weight of a plow or the ache of knees that kneel in the muck. There are officials between you and him. The reeve, chosen from among the villagers, manages daily tasks. He remembers who owes what. He tracks grain, debts, broken tools. Some say he is fair. Others say he's turned cruel with power. Some say he is fair. At midday, you receive a crust of bread and a bowl of ale for your labor. You sit by the roadside, your hands black with earth and blood from small cuts. Your muscles burn. You chew slowly, staring at the dirt you've been moving since morning. Your thoughts drift. What if the Lord forgave your dues this season? What if the king passed a law to free the villains? What if the village rose up, refused to work, and seized the grains? But these are not thoughts for speaking aloud. You bury them. Then, by sundown, the road is mostly passable. The bailiff leaves without thanks. Your back screams with each step home. Your field is untouched. You will have to plant by moonlight. Your neighbor grumbles about the injustice, but his wife hushes him quickly. Words travel, she warns, eyes flicking toward the shadows. You arrive home just as the stars begin to blink in the sky. There is no hot food left, only a crust in a lukewarm bowl of onion broth. You eat in silence. Later, you lie on the straw again, staring at the beams above you. You think of the manor, the taxes, the road work, the unpaid hours. Your body may belong to the land, but you're not yet. Your sleep comes slowly tonight. Your hands still clench the ghost of a shovel. Your shoulders twitch with pain, but outside, a soft rain begins to fall, and for a little while, all is still. The walls around you are thin, woven branches coated in mud straw. They groan softly when the wind pushes through the village. In winter, they freeze and crack. In summer, they sweat and seize and set. This is your home. It has always been your home. Your parents lived here, and their parents before them. It leans slightly to the left, as if exhausted from holding generations of memory. There is one main room, no doors, no privacy. In one corner lies the hearth, your only heat source. In another, straw mats for sleeping. You share these mats with your siblings, elbows and knees tucked tightly together. At night, the darkness is complete. There are no street lamps, no glow from distant cities, just the flicker of firelight, the occasional glowworm on the sill, and the slow, quiet breathing of others sleeping beside you. The roof is thatch. It leaks when the rains are heavy. You place buckets to catch the drops, or simply shift to the drier side of the mat. You live with animals, not just outside, but inside too. Chickens roost in the rafters. A piglet sometimes sleeps by the hearth for warmth. You once woke to a goat nibbling your blanket. You didn't mind. Everything smells of smoke. Your clothes, your hair, even your skin carry the scent. It clings to every corner. The air is always a little thick. Your eyes water sometimes without reason. There are few possessions, a wooden bowl each, a shared jug for ale, one spoon if you're lucky, a pot that was once your grandmother's, a single iron knife handed down like treasure. Your mother tends to the fire each morning. She adds peat or dry dung, whatever she can gather from the common pasture. The smoke keeps the bugs away. Mostly, you itch constantly. Fleas and lice are part of daily life. You scratch without thinking. Everyone does. It's not shameful, just expected. Sometimes, when the weather is fine, you help scrub the floor with rushes soaked in herbs. It smells faintly of rosemary and wild mint for a day or two. Then the pigs return. In the evening, there's a rhythm to life indoors. Your father whittles wooden pegs by the fire. Your sister spins wool, her spindle dancing slowly near the hearth. Your mother hums as she patches old linen with even older thread. Your mother hums as she patches old linen with even older thread. Stories are told, always stories. Tales of saints, of brave kings, of foolish animals and clever maids. Sometimes stories are warnings. Don't wander into the woods. Don't speak to women with silver hair. Don't forget to cross yourself at dusk. You sit cross legged by the fire, fingers sticky with honey and bread crusts. You listen, you remember. These are your evening lessons, not letters or numbers, but survival and superstition. The night outside howls with wind, through trees and creaking wood. Inside, it is warm and close. You feel the weight of the day settle into your limbs. You lie back onto the straw mat, pressing your cheek against a coarse blanket. In the morning, you will rise with the smoke again. But for now, this home, smoky and crowded though it may be, holds you safely within its walls. And somehow, you sleep. Your world is small, stretches only as far as the edges of your village, a collection of cottages clustered like sheep around a central path. No walls, no guards, just muddy lanes and low stone fences. But to you, it is a kingdom, a world of familiar faces, daily rhythms, and quiet rules everyone knows, even if no one speaks them aloud. The village wakes early, long before the sun warms the frost from the thatched roofs. You hear the clatter of hooves, the creak of carts, the groan of doors. Dogs bark, a cock crows. The day begins not with ceremony, but with chores. You know every face. The reeve, tall and stern, with a limp from an old injury. He keeps the manorial records, counts grain and fines. No one likes him, but everyone respects him. His word carries weight. And then there's the blacksmith, arms thick as tree trunks, apron always dusted with soot. His forge never sleeps. Nails, plowshares, horseshoes all pass through his hands. He speaks little, but his hammer speaks plenty. The midwife, wrinkled as dried apples, with eyes that see through walls, she knows which roots to boil for fever, which teas bring sleep, and which prayers to whisper when labor is long and painful. The priest, soft spoken, always smelling faintly of wax and old parchment, he walks with his head bowed, reminding villagers of sin, of heaven and hell, of tithes owed and blessings needed. He is poor like you, yet somehow separate. The children run barefoot, chasing chickens, skipping stones. They have chores, but also laughter, a muddy game near the well, a pretend sword fight with stick. Childhood is short, but not joyless. On market days, the village stirs more than usual. People gather near the center, laying out baskets of eggs, bundles of wool, clay pots, and carved wooden spoons. There is no money, just barter, a dozen turnips for a hen, a patch of beeswax for a needle. You walk among them, greeting neighbors. You share news, who's taken ill, who's had a baby, whose sheep wandered off. Gossip travels fast in a place this small. It is both currency and caution. Not all is peaceful. Disputes simmer beneath the surface. A borrowed cart not returned, a fence post moved a foot too far, an insult mumbled after too much ale. Grudges grow slowly here, but they grow deep, and superstition is everywhere. A woman wears a pouch of garlic to keep spirits away. A boy touches a stone 3 times before drinking from the well. No one cuts hair on the full moon. You're not sure why, but no one does. Some fear witches, old women who live on the edge of the woods, who talk to crows or gather herbs in silence. One was chased from the village last year. No one speaks of it now, but no one forgets either. The church offers structure. Bells mark the hours. Mass gives shape to the week. Feasts and fasts. Confessions and penance. You may not understand Latin, but you understand fear and hope. At sunset, the village softens. Fires glow behind wooden shutters. Laughter carries from doorways. Bread is broken. Ale is shared. Children drift to sleep in their mother's arms. Stories are whispered around hearths. This place is your whole world, and for all its hardship, it is also home. As you lie down tonight, the sounds of the village still linger in your ears. A dog barking in the distance, a baby crying, a lullaby hummed by a tired voice. You close your eyes and let it all fade. Hunger is a quiet companion. It never truly leaves. It wakes with you, walks beside you, and settles into your bones each night. This season, early spring, is called the lean time. The salted meat is long gone. The grain bins hold only dust and dreams. The hens have barely begun to lay again, and the ground yields nothing yet. You rise each day with your stomach already aching, but you have no choice but to move, to work, to endure. Today, your mother sends you to forage along the woods beyond the fields. Not deep, never deep. There are stories of wolves, and worse. You walk with a basket on your back, your boots sinking into wet moss and crumbling leaves. The sun filters through skeletal trees, still bare from winter's breath. You know what to look for? Nettle leaves, sting your fingers, but good for soup. Dandelion greens, bitter but filling. Wild onions, sharp and rare. A few mushrooms, but only the ones you recognize. The others could kill you. You find some birch bark, too. It can be boiled into a thin broth. Not delicious, barely edible, but warm. That counts for something. Others from the village pass near you, doing the same quiet work. No one speaks much during foraging. Words waste energy, and hunger makes people suspicious. A boy from another family eyes your basket. You nod politely, but hold it closer to your chest. Last year, someone's stash went missing before they made it home. Desperation doesn't care about neighbors. At home, your mother crushes dried beans from the last harvest. Only a handful left. She adds them to the pot, along with the nettles you brought. A few turnips too small to grow. Water thickens slowly into something soup-like. The smell is faint, but it stirs something in your belly. A growl, a hope. When it's ready, you each get a bowl. The youngest eat first, then the elders, then you. You sip slowly, savoring the warmth more than the taste. Later that night, you dream of feasts, of golden loaves, dripping meat, and honey so thick it glues your fingers together. Then you wake to your own dry fingers clenched in your blanket. You chew wood sometimes, not to eat, but to trick your jaw into feeling full. Or you drink water until your belly aches. That doesn't work, but you do it anyway. You've heard of families who've eaten leather or chewed boiled straw. One old man swears he roasted a rat once. No one laughs when he says it. In this world, food isn't comfort, it's survival, a transaction with the land and the Lord. And sometimes neither gives what you need. You try not to think about tomorrow's hunger or next week's. You focus on the now, the weight of the empty bowl, the sound of your sister's quiet chewing, the scrape of a spoon on wood. Your stomach growls again as you lie down. You press a hand to it as if to hush it like a crying child, and slowly, eventually, you drift off. Summer arrives not with leisure, but with labor. The fields are alive now, green and golden and buzzing with insects. But this beauty is not for admiring. It demands sweat and muscle. The days are long. The sun rises before you do. It beats down on your neck before you've finished your first task. You wipe your brow on your sleeve, leaving streaks of dirt behind. You do not care. Today is haymaking. You work beside your neighbors in the open fields, slicing grass with scythes so old their handles are polished, smoothed by generations of hands. The air is filled with the sharp scent of cut grass and the distant call of crows. Then you swing the scythe in a practiced arc. Again and again, your hands blister beneath rough twine bindings. The sun scalds your back. You pause only to drink from a shared jug of warm water, then swing again. By midday, your shirt is soaked, your arms ache, the air shimmers with heat, flies cling to your skin without fear. There is no shade, only the endless waving field, waiting to be cut and bundled. Insects crawl freely on your legs, your arms, your face. You swat without thinking. A bee stings your wrist. You grimace but keep going. There's no time to stop. In the afternoon, you help stack the hay into tight bundles. It pricks your arms and scratches your face, but its smell is rich, sweet, promising food for the oxen, warmth for the winter. Evening comes slowly. The sun lingers in the sky like a watching eye. When at last it begins to dip, the fields shimmer gold. You gather the tools, aching from head to heel. A sense of accomplishment hums beneath the exhaustion. Back in the village, you soak your feet in a cold basin. Your mother places a smear of honey on your bee sting. Someone hands you a crust of bread and a small cup of cider. It tastes like sunlight and relief. Nights are gentler now. The air is warm. The doors stay open. Neighbors gather in the path with flutes and simple drums. Children chase fireflies. Someone begins to sing. It's a song you've heard every summer of your life. Tomorrow is sheep shearing. Another long day ahead. But for now, you lean against the fence, cup in hand, watching sparks from a nearby fire dance into the dark sky. You breathe deep. The scent of smoke and clover fills your lungs. It is not peace, but it is close. And sometimes that is enough. When you lie down to sleep, your arms still throb, but your belly is full. Your spirit, strangely, feels lighter than it did in spring. And so you drift off quickly to the quiet hum of the warm summer night. It begins with a cough, a dry one, from your younger brother. At first, no one thinks much of it. The dust from the hay, perhaps, or too much smoke from the hearth. But by morning, his cheeks are flushed. His breath rattles. He refuses food. And you know something is wrong. There is no doctor in your village, no surgeon with tools and potions, only the midwife and the old healer who lives near the edge of the woods. People call her Aunt Lynn. Some say she's wise. Others whisper that she sees too much. Your mother sends you to fetch her. You run barefoot across the dusty path, dodging geese and carts. You find her outside her cottage, drying herbs on a wooden rack. She doesn't speak much, just nods, grabs a bundle of dried plants, and follows you. Her basket smells of vinegar, mint, and something sour you can't name. She checks your brother quietly, presses her palm to his forehead, opens his mouth, listens to his chest. Then she boils a thick brown tea in your hearth, muttering softly as steam fills the room. He drinks, and he sleeps. You wait for hours. Your family sits in silence, only the fire cracking and the sound of distant church bells breaking the stillness. Time feels different now, slower. By nightfall, your brother still burns with fever. You cool him with damp cloths. Aunt Lynn stays nearby, eyes half closed, as if listening to the air itself. This is not rare. In fact, it's expected. Children fall ill. Sometimes they recover. Sometimes they do not. Everyone remembers the plague, the Black Death. Your grandmother told you stories of the dead cart rolling through towns, of the quiet after mass burials, of empty homes. It's been decades, but the fear lingers. It's been decades, but the fear lingers. Even now, with no plague in sight, sickness comes like smoke sudden, choking, and hard to stop. The church offers comfort. The priest visits with a prayer and a vial of holy water. He mutters Latin over your brother's still form. He speaks of God's will. Your mother listens, eyes hollow. 3 days pass. Your brother sleeps. He moans sometimes, but he breathes. He is still here. Then one morning, the fever breaks. His skin is wet with sweat, but cool. He opens his eyes, blinks at the light, whispers your name, and you cry. So does your mother. You survived this one. This time, not everyone does. A neighbor's daughter dies a week later. No one knows why. She was laughing in the fields that morning. By night, she was gone. The village gathers for her burial. A rough wooden coffin, a handful of flowers from the hedges, a prayer murmured over shallow earth. Grief is quiet here. It must be. There is always work to do, fields to tend, bread to bake. Life does not stop for mourning. But at night, when the wind moves softly through the trees, you sometimes hear your mother whispering prayers to the saints you've never seen, not for protection, but for mercy. Tonight, you sleep beside your brother again. You listen to his breath, deep and even, and you allow yourself, for the first time in many nights, to let go and rest. It starts small, a shared glance while feeding pigs, a quick smile at the well, hands brushing while lifting a basket. No poetry, no serenades, just brief moments of softness, hidden between hours of toil. You don't choose your life here. Not really. Not your land, not your work, not even your marriage. But still, love finds its way between the chores. You've seen couples form this way. Then comes the conversation with parents, the whispered questions between families. Does he have land? Can she bake? Are they both strong? Marriage is practical here. It's survival. Two bodies to work the field, two pairs of hands to feed a family, two voices to keep the hearth from growing too quiet. Dowries are discussed quietly. a few hens, a bolt of wool, a promise to help raise a roof come autumn. Then the church is involved, and suddenly you are betrothed. And yet, there is tenderness in the way she saves the ripest plum for him, in the way he mends her shoe before his own, in the way they sit together each evening, their silence soft instead of heavy. Children follow soon after. There is no waiting, no planning. A baby is a blessing and another mouth to feed. Mothers work until the pains come, and then again the next day. There is no leave from life. Weddings are humble, a priest's blessing, bread and ale shared among neighbors, a dance in the dirt road, with music played on a single drum and a carved flute. Laughter echoes against the trees. For one night, the burdens are lifted. The roles are firm. Men till and thresh. Women spin and bake. Boys tend to animals. Girls fetch water. Each child knows what is expected. And slowly, the rhythms repeat. Older women guide the younger ones. How to birth, how to brew, how to endure. They are quiet pillars, standing firm beneath roofs made of straw and soot. Fathers teach with looks more than words, a raised brow, a calloused hand laid on a shoulder. Pride is seldom spoken, but always felt. Still, there are moments when tradition bends. A girl climbs a tree higher than any boy. A man kneads dough when his wife falls ill. No one speaks of it, but they see, and they remember. You think of this as you lie beside your family, the shared breath of sleepers around you, the warmth of someone's shoulder pressed against yours. You do not say, I love you, but you live it. Love in your village does not shout. It does not blaze like fire. It simmers, slow and steady, warming a bowl of soup, patching a ripped sleeve, waiting at the door as the sun goes down. There is no privacy, none at all, but within these shared spaces, people carve out little corners of care, a woven ribbon given in secret, a song hummed just for one set of ears. Autumn is not calm, does not whisper its arrival. It barrels in, demanding your full strength. For now is the time when everything matters. The wheat stands tall, golden swaying in the breeze. Barley, too. Oats in the corner plots. What you reap this month will decide whether your family eats or starves. Come February, everyone works, even the old, even the very young. Baskets are mended, scythes are sharpened, sickles hung from belts like weapons, not for battle, but for survival. You rise before the sun. Again, your boots crunch frost as you step outside. The air smells of wet earth and ripe grain. You breathe deeply, and then you begin. The work is rhythm, slice, gather, bind, repeat, hour after hour, under a pale blue sky that offers no shade. You sweat through your wool, and your hands stain green with the juice of crushed stalks. Sometimes you hum while you work, sometimes not. Often you simply fall into silence. The only sounds are the rustle of grain, the thump of full sacks, and the distant bell from the chapel calling for prayers you haven't time to say. Meals are brief and eaten in the field, a crust of bread, an apple from the hedge, maybe a bit of hard cheese if you're lucky. You chew with one hand and keep bundling with the other. Then come the carts, wooden wheels creaking under the weight of your labor. The harvest is brought to the manor barn. There it is weighed, tallied, and divided. A portion goes to the Lord, a portion to the church, a portion to the reeve. What remains is yours. Maybe, if the rats haven't gotten to it first, you help thatch the storage shed roof with thick straw and pray the winter will be kind. Mice still find their way in. They always do. Still, the work brings a strange joy. The bins begin to fill. The scent of flour drifts from the mill. Fresh loaves appear on tables again, dense, dark, but warm. You chew slowly, smiling despite yourself. You chew slowly, smiling despite yourself. Cider, too. Apples pressed by hand. The juice fermented in old barrels. It bubbles quietly in the corner of the cottage, a small promise of comfort to come. And there are feasts, small ones, not royal, but shared, bread passed from hand to hand, songs sung loudly beneath smoky rafters, children stomping in bare feet, faces sticky with fruit. Your limbs ache more than ever. Your back bends farther than it did in spring, but your heart feels fuller. You have stored not just grain, but hope. When the first leaves fall, you sit by the fire and watch them drift through the sky. Orange, brown, gold. You think of all you've gathered and all you still must guard. Sleep that night comes quickly. Your body sinks into the straw like a stone in soft mud. Your dreams are full of tall sheaves and the scent of baking bread. The harvest has come, and for now you have served bellies and the scent of baking bread. The harvest has come, and for now you have served. You do not read, you do not write, you cannot recite the words of the Bible, but you know God, or rather, you know fear. Religion is not a choice in your village. It is air, water, firelight, and punishment and comfort, all wrapped in one. The church bell tolls every day, sometimes more than once. Its voice rises through the mist, echoing over the hills, calling you to Mass, to confession, to kneel and mumble prayers you do not understand, but must say anyway. The priest is not cruel, but he speaks of hell as if he has seen it. Lakes of fire, screaming souls, demons with twisted horns and burning eyes. He warns you often about sloth, about pride, about women who dance too freely. You attend church every Sunday. Your clothes smell of hay and smoke. You sit on the cold stone bench, trying not to shift too much or yawn. Latin chants roll over you like waves. You nod respectfully when told, but you do not know what was said. Still, you believe, because you must, because death is always close, and something must lie beyond it, because you've seen strange things. A baby born with two teeth, a rooster that crowed at midnight, a man struck dumb after lying near the altar. You give what little you have, a portion of grain, an egg, a candle stub made from leftover tallow. In return, the priest blesses you, offers his prayers, and when someone dies, he buries them properly, so their soul may find peace. On feast days, the church feels different, brighter. The wooden cross is wrapped in herbs and flowers. Banners hang from the beams. There is music, flutes, drums, even voices lifted in song. For a moment, the building is full of joy. Then Lent comes, and the joy is gone. Fasting returns, ash on your forehead, the smell of incense and discipline. You eat less, you pray more, you listen carefully for signs and dreams. You eat less, you pray more, you listen carefully for signs and dreams. You fear sin, but you fear demons more. There are tales of them in the woods. in old ruins, in the eyes of strangers who come from far places. To protect yourself, you keep a carved charm near your bed, a piece of iron above the door, a prayer etched into the frame with a burnt stick. The saints are your hope. Saint Leonard for the sick, Saint Isidore for the field, Saint Barbara when lightning strikes. You do not expect miracles, but you ask anyway, quietly, desperately. You, sometimes you wonder what happens to those who do not believe. But then you see how the priest looks at them, and you stop wondering. You nod, you bow your head, you recite what you must. And in the quiet moments, when the stars come out and the world is still, you kneel beside your bed of straw, clasp your calloused hands, and whisper your own prayers, not in Latin, not in verse, but in the simple language of longing. You do not know if God hears you, but you speak anyway. Winter returns slowly, like a thief slipping back into a familiar home. First the mornings grow crisp, then the mud hardens into frost, then the wind begins to howl through the gaps in your walls. You bundle in layers, wool upon linen upon scraps of fur. Nothing matches, everything itches, but it is warmer than nothing, and that's all that matters now. Firewood is precious. Every stick was gathered weeks ago, carefully stacked beside the hearth. You burn it sparingly, just enough to cook, just enough to warm the room, enough to sleep. Water freezes overnight. You wake to break the ice in the bucket near the door. Your hands sting from the cold, and still you must carry more from the stream. It crunches beneath your feet. The sky is a hard, pale gray. Animals are moved inside. The pig sleeps near the hearth again. Chickens find corners to roost in. You share your space without complaint. Their warmth helps yours. Meals are thin, salted beans, root vegetables, a bit of lard spread over bread. If the stores run out, hunger will return, and you know what that means now. Your work changes. There is no sowing or harvesting now. Instead, you mend, weave, repair tools. Your mother patches clothes by firelight. Your father carves wooden handles for spring's plows. Your hands are never still. The dark comes early, before supper, and it stays long. The nights are so quiet, you can hear the snow fall, and the wind creep beneath the eaves. You stay indoors longer than any other time of year, and the walls begin to feel smaller. Voices rise more often now. Tension builds in close quarters. A spilled bucket, a misremembered chore, a baby's cry that won't stop. You snap, and then you apologize. You go days without seeing the sky, weeks without leaving the village. Cabin fever, you feel it in your chest like a tight cord, but there is nowhere else to go. The priest visits more often, reminds everyone to hold fast. That winter is a trial of faith, that the Lord sees those who endure. You nod silently, but wonder how many winters he expects you to pass through. Illness comes easier now. Chilled lungs, aching bones, no fresh fruit, no light. Some don't make it to spring. Still, there are moments of warmth. The smell of bread, thick and hearty, baked from the last of the rye, and neighbors knock at the door, sharing cider because we're still here. And stories, so many stories, of summers past, of saints and beasts, of a cousin who once walked all the way to the coast. You listen, your eyes reflecting the firelight. You sleep more in winter. There is little else to do when the world is frozen. You lie curled in your cloak, your breath a small cloud in the dark, and you dream of sunlight, of warm grass beneath your bare feet, of a world that moves again. Justice in your village is not blind. It watches you closely with the eyes of the reeve, the bailiff, and the entire community. There is no distant courtroom, no powdered wigs, no polished words. The manorial court gathers in the open once every few weeks near the edge of the Lord's granary, a bench for the steward, a stool for the accused. The charges are small but serious: a stolen egg, a broken fence, a pig that wandered into another man's field, gossip taken too far, a woman accused of speaking curses after sundown. Today, you attend because your cousin is summoned. Someone claims he took extra grain from the mill. He says it was a mistake. He says nothing, really. He stands still with his head bowed. The steward listens, then reads from a scrap of parchment. Fines are issued in pennies, or oats, or labor days. Those who cannot pay face punishment. The stocks are always ready: two wooden beams with holes for arms and neck, set in the center of the village, so all may see, so all may remember. You've sat beside a friend in the stocks once. He had argued with the reeve after too much ale. The next morning, there he was, head lowered, arms bound, children laughing as they tossed bits of bread. He smiled through it, but not really. Some crimes are worse. A man once caught poaching the Lord's deer lost his hand. Another who struck a priest was hanged. These tales are told quietly, around fire pits at night. There is no lawyer to defend you here, only your neighbors, and sometimes your enemies. A grudge from harvest season may resurface in spring court. A whispered insult may lead to a very public shame. The law is not written for you. It protects landowners and the church and tradition. You live beneath it, not within it. Still, you obey, not because you agree, but because you must, to avoid the stocks, to avoid the bailiff's boot, to avoid whispers that turn into judgment. Disputes among villagers are handled with care. A missing chicken becomes a tense conversation. A trampled fence leads to scowls across the lane, but rarely to violence, because punishment always comes swiftly. You wonder sometimes what justice looks like in the towns, in the cities with walls and scribes and parchment covered in words you cannot read. Do they have fairness there, or just better seats? Tonight, as you sit beside the fire, your cousin beside you with a fine to pay in barley, you think about right and wrong and how often they blur in the eyes of those who judge. You lie down on the straw mat, staring up at the beams. The silence outside is cold and deep. You hope tomorrow brings no summons, only work, only ordinary days, the safest kind. You have never left the village. Not really. The farthest you've gone is to the market town a few miles away. And even then, it felt like stepping into another world. But sometimes, late at night, when the wind is soft and the fire has dimmed, your thoughts wander farther, beyond the hills, beyond the forests, to cities you've never seen and lives you'll never live. You've heard stories of people who fled their manor, who ran to the towns and joined the guilds, who learned trades and bought their freedom with sweat and clever hands. They say if you live in a town for a year and a day without being caught, you are free, no longer bound to your lord, no longer tied to the land of your birth. But it's not so simple. If you are caught, you can be dragged back, whipped, fined, or worse. And towns are not what you imagine. They are loud, dirty, crowded, thieves in every alley, smoke that burns the throat, and coins, always coins. You've barely seen one in your life. You're still, the dream lingers. What if you became a weaver, a scribe? What if you lived in a room with a door you could lock, with no livestock snoring beside you? What if your children could learn to read? One of your neighbors tried once, a quiet man, good with wood. He vanished one spring night, leaving behind only his worn boots. Some said he was caught, others claimed he made it. No one knows, then. The reeve does not speak his name. The priest frowns when he is mentioned, but sometimes, when the fire is low, the children whisper stories about him, the man who reached the coast. You think of it more often than you should, especially when the Lord's taxes rise, or when your hands bleed from frost, or when you see your little brother coughing again and you wonder what it would be like to leave. But you stay because your parents are here, because your work is here, because running is dangerous and hope is fragile. Still, on quiet nights, you trace imaginary roads in the dirt beside your mat. You draw little towns you've never seen, bridges, ships, towers, and your fingers move like they're already walking. Dury, escape is a fire that smolders. You bury it beneath chores and duty, but it never quite dies. You fall asleep with a soft smile. Just for tonight, you dream of freedom. You might think the life of a peasant changes with the seasons, and in some ways it does. The fields freeze, bloom, and wither again. The tasks shift accordingly. But what doesn't change, what never changes, is that there is always something that must be done. Always. You don't rise with the sun, you rise before it. You wake in the dark, sometimes to the sound of animals stirring. A chicken clucks against the wall. The pig grunts near the hearth. You pull yourself from the blanket, muscles stiff, back sore from straw and labor. First task, rekindle the fire. You push yesterday's coals together, blow softly, add twigs and dried moss. Smoke curls upward. It catches. Then water, always water. You walk to the stream or well with two heavy buckets. Your hands ache in winter. In summer, they slip from sweat. In spring, the path is mud. In fall, slippery with leaves. If it's baking day, you fetch flour from the storage bin. Mix coarse rye with water and sour mash. Knead it with your forearms. Let it rise by the fire. Watch the loaves so they don't blacken in the oven. If it's washing day, you haul garments and linens to the stream. You pound them with stones. Scrub them with ashes and soapwort. Your knuckles crack in the cold. You wring them out and carry them back, heavy and dripping. If it's mending day, you patch cloaks, fix sandals with twine and animal glue, darn socks with bone needles. You sit by dim light and squint until your head aches. Tending the garden never ends, digging weeds with bare hands, flicking beetles off cabbage leaves, checking for mold on the onions, fighting off birds with sticks and shouted curses. You repair fences, patch the roof, sharpen tools, mix feed for livestock, scrub soot off the hearth, twist new rope from straw and dog hair, collect dung for fuel. Your hands never look clean. Your nails are rimmed in black. Your back is always tight. You find hay in your hair even after washing. You get splinters in places you don't even understand. Meal preparation is its own job. Killing the chicken, plucking it, gutting it, gutting it, drying herbs, grinding barley into meal, fetching milk before the cow kicks over the bucket, starting the fire again because the first went out. And all the while, the children tug at your sleeves. The ox bellows from its stall. Your mother asks for help with her knees. Your cousin stops by to borrow an axe. Someone's goat is stuck in a fence again. There are no breaks, no weekends, no holidays without effort. Even on feast days, someone has to stir the pottage. Someone has to chase the geese away from the grain sacks. You don't complain because there's no one to listen. Everyone is as tired as you. Everyone is just trying to stay ahead of the next task, the next spill, the next problem. But sometimes you pause at the door. You look out across the fields, and the sunlight hits the hills just right, and the air smells like hay and warm bread, and you remember that this too is life. You work because you must, but also because it holds the world together. Every chore, every stitch, every moment spent fixing what's broken, it's all part of the invisible thread that keeps your village alive. And at the end of the day, when you lie down on the straw again, your bones heavy, your fingers aching, you sleep. Not deeply, not long, but well enough. Tomorrow it begins again. You might think the life of a peasant changes with the seasons, and in some ways it does. The fields freeze, bloom, and wither again. The tasks shift accordingly. But what doesn't change, what never changes, is that there is always something that must be done. Always. You don't rise with the sun, you rise before it. You wake in the dark, sometimes to the sound of animals stirring. A chicken clucks against the wall. The pig grunts near the hearth. You pull yourself from the blanket, muscles stiff, back sore from straw and labor. First task, rekindle the fire. You push yesterday's coals together, blow softly, add twigs and dried moss. Smoke curls upward. It catches. Then water. Always water. You walk to the stream or well with two heavy buckets. Your hands ache in winter. In summer, they slip from sweat. In spring, the path is mud. In fall, slippery with leaves. If it's baking day, you fetch flour from the storage bin. Mix coarse rye with water and sour mash. Knead it with your forearms. Let it rise by the fire. Watch the loaves so they don't blacken in the oven. If it's washing day, you haul garments and linens to the stream. You pound them with stones, scrub them with ashes and soapwort. Your knuckles crack in the cold. You wring them out and carry them back, heavy and dripping. If it's mending day, you patch cloaks, fix sandals with twine and animal glue, darn socks with bone needles. You sit by dim light and squint until your head aches. Tending the garden never ends. Digging weeds with bare hands, flicking beetles off cabbage leaves, checking for mold on the onions, fighting off birds with sticks and shouted curses. You repair fences, patch the roof, sharpen tools, mix feed for livestock, scrub soot off the hearth, twist new rope from straw and dog hair, collect dung for fuel. Your hands never look clean. Your nails are rimmed in black. Your back is always tight. You find hay in your hair even after washing. You get splinters in places you don't even understand. Meal preparation is its own job. Killing the chicken, plucking it, gutting it, drying herbs, grinding barley into meal, fetching milk before the cow kicks over the bucket, starting the fire again because the first went out. And all the while, the children tug at your sleeves. The ox bellows from its stall. Your mother asks for help with her knees. Your cousin stops by to borrow an axe. Someone's goat is stuck in a fence again. There are no breaks, no weekends, no holidays without effort. Even on feast days, someone has to stir the pottage. Someone has to chase the geese away from the grain sacks. You don't complain because there's no one to listen. Everyone is as tired as you. Everyone is just trying to stay ahead of the next task, the next spill, the next problem. But sometimes you pause at the door. You look out across the fields, and the sunlight hits the hills just right, and the air smells like hay and warm bread, and you remember that this too is life. You work because you must, but also because it holds the world together. Every chore, every stitch, every moment spent fixing what's broken, it's all part of the invisible thread that keeps your village alive. And at the end of the day, when you lie down on the straw again, your bones heavy, your fingers aching, you sleep, not deeply, not long, but well enough. Tomorrow it begins again. It comes quietly, as it often does, not with a scream, not with thunder, but with a wheeze in the night. Old Megs, the widow who lived near the woods, hasn't answered her door in 2 days. The midwife checks in the morning. When she returns to the village path, her face says everything. No one is surprised. Mags had grown thin. Her hands shook when she held her spoon. Her eyes had grown distant. But still, it is a loss. Burial must be swift. The cold is sharp, and the ground is hard. But you cannot leave her to the elements. That would not be right. That would not be safe. The priest gathers the village by the church. Megs is laid out in her best cloak, hair brushed, hands folded with her old rosary wrapped between the fingers. Her shoes are patched but clean. Someone placed a sprig of rosemary at her throat. The bell tolls once, then again, then again. You walk with the others down the narrow trail to the churchyard. Her body rests in a simple wooden coffin. It is carried on the shoulders of 4 men, 2 of them barely old enough to remember her laugh. The hole is shallow, the ground too frozen for anything deeper. Still, it is enough. The priest sprinkles water from a cracked vial. Latin fills the air, cold and holy. When she is lowered into the earth, the wind dies for a moment, just a moment, and you feel the stillness in your chest. Then the shovels move. Dirt thuds onto wood, a final sound. Final. Afterward, you gather in small groups. You speak softly. Some cry. Most don't. There is not time for deep grief here. Bread still needs baking. Fences still need mending. But in the days that follow, Mag's absence becomes a hollow in the village. No soft humming near the stream. No clatter of her broom. No sudden bursts of laughter at some private joke she never explained. You remember how she taught you to gather blackberries without tearing your sleeves, how she tied a bit of twine around your wrist once and said it would keep away bad dreams. And now she is gone, like the many before her, like many to come. The churchyard is filled with low wooden markers, names scratched by knives, dates faded or never written, each one a story, most forgotten. And yet, in small ways, they remain. You stir your soup the way your father did. You hum Mag's tune when you hang laundry. You wear your brother's old belt, now that he no longer needs it. Nothing is wasted here. Not cloth, not wood, not memory. You learn to carry the dead with you, not as a burden, but as a part of your spine. Quiet reminders that you are still breathing, still eating, still standing. That night, you sit by the fire longer than usual. You look into the flames, watching them flicker like thoughts you cannot name. Then you step outside and breathe the winter air deep into your lungs. It hurts, but it means you're alive. And as you lie back on the straw, wrapped in old cloaks, you whisper a quiet goodbye to the ones who've gone, and a quieter promise to keep going. Some seasons pass without drama. No plague, no storm, no famine, no sudden death or Lord's decree. Just work, just days, just life. And in those stretches, the ones no song is written about, you begin to notice the details, the quiet rhythms, the small pleasures that live between hardship and hunger. You begin to notice how the first light touches the field in late spring, not golden, but silver, like milk poured across the sky. The dew glitters like it's been dusted with ground glass. You notice the rhythm of your feet on packed dirt, the way the path from your door to the well has become familiar, a trail worn not just by steps, but by memory. The hens recognize your voice now. They cluck differently when you bring scraps. One of them pecks your boots out of habit. You name her Agnes. You don't know why, but it suits her. You catch yourself smiling at the sound of your own laugh. It surprises you. You hadn't heard it in weeks. Not real laughter, just the dry huff that comes from disbelief or aching joints. But this one, it was true. It was true. One evening, your younger sibling shows you a bug with wings that shine blue in the light. You kneel beside them. Together you watch it crawl over a stone. You forget for a moment the aching in your knees. There you watch it crawl over a stone. You forget for a moment the aching in your knees. On a day off from field work, rare but not impossible, you walk into the forest with nothing to fetch. No wood, no mushrooms, just your feet in the quiet. You sit by the streams. You listen to the sound of water pulling over rocks. That night, your dreams are not of wolves or lords or illness, but of birds in flight, of green leaves stretching endlessly into a sky with no ceiling. There is a kind of healing in these slow days. Your hands still hurt. Your back still tightens when you lift too much, but your breath is deeper. You feel it in your chest, less like survival, more like living. And the reeve still counts your grain. The taxes are still due, but the priest nods at you in a way he didn't before. And the woman who sells onions at market smiles with her eyes now. People are changing with the weather. You hear music again, not the drum of toil, but the flute played by the shepherd's daughter. The notes float over the hedgerow, soft and uncertain. She's still learning, but the sound is beautiful anyway. One afternoon, you carve a small figure from wood, not for work, but for yourself. A rabbit, or maybe a bird. You can't quite tell, but when you're done, you hold it in your hand and feel something. Is it pride, joy, a flicker of ownership in a life where nothing is yours? You don't speak of it to anyone, but you hide the figure beneath your blanket, and some nights you hold it just before sleep, a secret comfort. In the slow seasons, your mind stretches out, not just to the next chore, but to questions. What happens when you die? Why are some born with land and others without? What lies beyond the hills? You don't say these questions aloud, but you let them grow quietly at the back of your mind, like herbs in the shade, slow, cautious, alive. And in the stillest hours, when the fire is low, and no one stirs, and the world feels almost gentle, you begin to feel it. A strange sort of strength. Not the strength of arms or wealth, but the kind that lets you wake up again tomorrow, that lets you carry the water, mend the fence, laugh at a chicken, and whisper stories to children about stars that never fall. The seasons will turn again soon. The work will return with all its weight. But tonight, just for now, you breathe in the peace of things that are still and small and utterly yours. And now, the year is complete. 12 months in a life you never asked for, but lived all the same. You woke before the sun. You tilled frozen ground. You planted with blistered palms. You sweated under endless sky. You foraged when cupboards were bare. You gave what little you had and still found something to share. You endured the hunger of spring, the heat of summer, the death that brushed by in autumn, and the silence of winter's long, cold breath. You survived the Lord's taxes, the bailiff's call, the whispers of superstition, the watchful eyes of neighbors and reeves and priests. You laughed in small moments, sang near smoky fires, carved little tokens of comfort in wood and memory. You found beauty in a hen's curious cluck, in the shimmer of dew on grass, in the feel of your own voice joining a song no one wrote down. And through it all, you held on to what was yours, to what couldn't be taken, your breath, your thoughts, your quiet strength. So now, as you lie beneath the stars, the same stars that lit the sky 1,000 years ago, ask yourself gently, would you have survived a year as a medieval peasant? Maybe you would have, maybe not, but tonight you did, and that is enough. And let this long journey through toil and time sink deep into stillness. Now, let your breathing soften and your mind settle. There are no more tasks to do, no more bells to answer, no more grain to gather. You are warm, you are safe, and the past has grown quiet around you, like a blanket tucked around your shoulders. Thank you for walking this path, for feeling the earth under your feet, the cold in your hands, and the strength in your soul. Well, now, dream gently, and if you dream of a village with a crooked cottage, a stubborn hen named Agnes, and laughter near a fire, know that you have been there before. Good night.